Diddy's case just keeps getting crazier. Word is, a disturbing piece of footage has surfaced, allegedly showing Usher breaking down in tears inside Diddy's private bathroom. Remember when Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, said this?
I know, and people know, that was around in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital.
Well, now people are saying that situation might be directly tied to this footage. There's been a lot of talk over the years about Diddy and Usher's strange relationship. This just takes it to a new level. Let's break it down. The latest Usher-Diddy bombshell. Their story kicks off back in '93 when a gifted 13-year-old Usher showed up to spit for Antonio L.A. Reed at LaFace Records and got signed on the spot. Reed could tell the kid had mad skills, but was sweating how to market him while his voice was breaking. That's when Reed made a decision that would flip Usher's whole script. In '94, Reed shipped the teenage Usher off to crash with Diddy, who was going by Puff Daddy back then, in New York. This setup, which the industry cats called Puffy Flavor Camp, was supposed to give the young blood some edge and show him how the music game really got down. At just 13 or 14, Usher relocated to Diddy's crib in Scarsdale, New York, where he posted up for nearly a year. Diddy, who was 25 at the time, became Usher's legal guardian during this stretch, and executive produced Usher's self-titled debut album. On paper, the plan seemed straight. Usher would soak up Diddy's swagger and get that industry exposure to level up his career. In Usher's own words from a 2016 sit-down on The Howard Stern Show, this arrangement was far from normal.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn some...
During this time, Usher was deep in the mix of the hip-hop and R&B scene, rubbing shoulders with some of the illest names in the game. He found himself rolling with heavyweights like Biggie, Lil' Kim, Mary J. Blige, and Faith Evans, all part of Diddy's A-list squad.
Yeah, man, Faith Evans, Jodeci, Mary J. Blige, they didn't know nothing about...
Oh.
I was having a good time.
For a teenage boy just trying to navigate the music hustle, this was a wild environment. Usher has described this period as one where he was watching it in real time, but wasn't really catching the full significance of what was going down around him. This makes you wonder, what exactly was this young buck being exposed to while under Diddy's roof? Usher has dropped some eyebrow-raising comments over the years about his experience. In a 2004 interview with Rolling Stone at age 25, Usher kept it 100 about his time with Diddy, stating that his mentor put him on to a totally different set of shit, sex specifically. He described the music industry as a place where sex is so hot, recalling that in Diddy's spot, there was always girls around. You'd open a door and see somebody doing it, or several people in a room having an orgy. You never knew what was going to happen. These statements suggest that Usher, at 13 or 14, was seeing grown folks' business that was way too much for someone his age. When Stern straight up asked if Diddy's place was filled with chicks and orgying like non-stop, Usher's response was mad, telling,
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I mean, but there, hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
Perhaps the most real talk came when Stern followed up asking if Usher would ever send his own kids to a similar Puffy Flavor Camp.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
See?
That hell no speaks volumes about how Usher looks back on his experience, suggesting he's not feeling the idea of putting young ones in the environment he was in during his time with Diddy. Despite these sketchy revelations, it's worth noting that Usher has also given props to the professional come-up he got from Diddy's mentorship. The connection with Diddy was crucial in shaping Usher's early hustle. Reed credited Diddy with convincing him not to drop Usher from LaFace when his voice changed, emphasizing the young singer's potential as a future star. Diddy's influence helped Usher develop a harder, more marketable image, which contributed to his later success with albums like My Way and Confessions. Usher has publicly acknowledged Diddy's role in his development, stating in a 2017 interview on Oprah's Masterclass that working with Diddy was an incredible experience and that he learned a lot from his mentor's grind. He also told People in February 2024 that Diddy's mentorship in 1994 helped him become the artist he is today. Their professional relationship stayed solid long after the mentorship ended. They collaborated on bangers like I Need a Girl Part 1 in 2002, and Usher showed up at Diddy's 50th 30th birthday bash in 2019. Their friendship seemed to hold up through the years, with Usher often speaking positively about Diddy's impact on his career. But the full story is more complicated than just a mentor-mentee success story. At a birthday celebration when he turned 35, with Diddy reportedly in the cut, Usher referenced being introduced to everything by Diddy at age 15, including parties, women, sex, and drugs. These comments, reported by the Daily Mail, added more fuel to the speculation about what he was exposed to as a teenager. The power dynamics in this situation can't be ignored. A 25-year-old man serving as legal guardian to a 13-year-old boy in an environment that, by Usher's own admission, included adult activities, raises serious ethical questions. While Usher hasn't explicitly called Diddy out for direct wrongdoing, his statements paint a picture of a young teenager potentially exposed to situations way beyond his years. The idea of sending a young teenager to live with an older mentor wasn't unheard of, but the specifics of Usher's experience with Diddy have come under increasing scrutiny, especially with all the allegations that would surface decades later. In 2023, the whole narrative surrounding Diddy and his past relationships, including his mentorship of Usher, took a dramatic turn, shining new light on these early interactions and raising disturbing questions about what might have gone down behind closed doors. The music industry's history of exploiting young talent, as seen in cases like R. Kelly, provides a troubling backdrop for examining Diddy's relationships with these artists. His power as a mogul gave him major control over protégés, potentially covering up misconduct until recent lawsuits brought these issues to light. The question still hangs in the air. Was this simply a case of a young artist being thrown into the deep end of the music industry too soon, or was there something more sinister in this relationship that has haunted both men for decades? As more people from the hood to the suburbs start talking, the truth about what really went down at Puffy Flavor Camp might finally come to light. Allegations and controversies. The relationship between Usher and Diddy stayed mostly on the low for years, with just a few interviews and comments giving small glimpses into their past connection. But starting in late 2023, their whole dynamic got put on Front Street when Sean Diddy Combs caught a series of legal cases that had everybody taking a second look at his past relationships, including how he mentored young Usher. On September 16, 2024, the music game was shook to the core when Diddy got snatched up on federal charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The federal indictment claimed that from 2008 until now, Diddy was running a criminal enterprise through his business empire, including Bad Boy Records and other hustles, getting involved in crimes like mistreatment, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. One of the most disturbing parts of the indictment described what the feds called freak-offs, multi-day, drug-fueled parties with multiple sex workers, allegedly recorded to keep participants from running their mouths. During raids on his cribs in March 2024, the authorities confiscated over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant, which they pointed to as evidence of these events. Diddy pleaded not guilty to everything and got denied bail multiple times, with judges saying he was a serious flight risk and a danger to the community because he was allegedly intimidating witnesses. His lawyers called the prosecution unjust, arguing that Diddy is an imperfect person, but not a criminal. While the federal charges against Diddy don't directly name Usher, they've cast mad shade over their past relationship and got people reconsidering what Usher said about his time living with Diddy as a teenager. The drama intensified when, just days after Diddy's arrest, Usher's X account looked like it had been wiped clean of all posts, making people think he was trying to cut ties with Diddy or hide past interactions. Fans and keyboard warriors on social media suggested the timing was sus, with some connecting it to Diddy's legal troubles. For example, one post claimed that Diddy forced Usher to participate in illegal activities. Usher quickly clapped back on September 22nd, 2024, stating, "Account got hacked and damn y'all ran with it." He made it clear that the deletion was due to a hack, not him trying to distance himself from Diddy. His Instagram stayed active and untouched, backing up his story. The federal charges against Diddy came right after a series of civil lawsuits dropped on him, starting with one from his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in November 2023. Ventura accused Diddy of years of mistreatment during their relationship from 2007 to 2018. The lawsuit got settled out of court within 24 hours for an undisclosed bag, but it triggered more lawsuits and a federal investigation. Since November 2023, over 24 civil lawsuits have been filed against Diddy, with the number shooting up to 63 by April 2025, accusing him of maltreatment dating back to 1991. After his arrest, Texas attorney Tony Busby announced he was about to drop 120 additional lawsuits on behalf of 60 male and 60 female accusers, including 25 who were minors at the time of the alleged misconduct. One particularly explosive allegation came from a civil lawsuit filed by former Danity Kane member Dawn Richard in September 2024. Richard alleged that Diddy groped her and threatened her life and claimed she witnessed him mistreating Ventura. What's major for our examination of Usher's relationship with Diddy is that Richard's lawsuit claimed that Usher witnessed Diddy's domestic violence against Cassie, though no further details were provided, and Usher has kept his lips sealed on this allegation. Another lawsuit that raised eyebrows was filed by Rodney Lil Rod Jones in February 2024. Jones alleged that Diddy had sexual relationships with male performers, including one described as having performed at the Super Bowl and had a successful Vegas residency. This had the internet and streets talking that the performer was Usher, since he killed that 2024 Super Bowl halftime show and had that fire Las Vegas residency. Perhaps the most shocking claims about Usher's relationship with Diddy came from Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard. In 2024, Deal dropped some bombshells in an interview with The Art of Dialogue on YouTube.
I mentioned that earlier, that he said about Stevie J. The Usher part, that's a touchy situation, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a certain feeling and I felt a certain way when Usher got on Shay Shay, and I don't mean to mention other people's platforms.
Gene Deal claims Diddy groomed Usher and alleges an incident led to Usher's hospitalization.
I know, and people know, that was around in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now, I'll let Usher explain that to y'all.
Deal further alleged that music executives told him Diddy had abused Usher as a child so severely that it messed him up physically, sending him to the hospital. When pressed for details, Deal stated,
"Explain that to you. Let Usher mama explain that to you." And the hospital was in Scarsdale, New York.
Another incident that's got people speculating about the nature of Usher and Diddy's relationship is a video clip from an interaction between Diddy, Kevin Hart, Trey Songz, and Usher. In the video, Diddy makes comments that some people think are sus, given the context of their past relationship.
That's my brother right here from day one. We used to wake up and, damn, pause, but like, that's how. Back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother, we used to fight over the Frosted Flakes. You know what I'm saying? Before pause was invented. You know what I'm saying? But it's my brother for real. We used to actually wrestle off of the...
This prompted Kevin Hart to call it out immediately.
What the did Puff just say? Nobody's going to acknowledge this for me. Puff just said we used to wrestle over the Frosted Flakes. And we're streaming live. That was stupid. Listen, that was stupid. Listen.
Having a good time, yo. Usher made it.
While this exchange could be interpreted different ways, some have seen it as mad concerning given the age gap between Diddy and Usher during their mentorship and all the allegations that have come out since. The controversy surrounding Diddy and Usher is part of a bigger pattern of allegations against Diddy that have popped up since his arrest. Besides Usher, another young artist who had a similar relationship with Diddy was Justin Bieber. Diddy mentored Justin Bieber during his early teens, similar to his role with Usher. Bieber signed to Usher's RBMG Records, linked up with Diddy around 2009 when he was about 15 years old. A viral video from that time shows Diddy describing a 48-hour period where Bieber would be under his watch, saying, "He's having 48 hours with Diddy, where we hanging out and what we're doing we can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream." Diddy clarified, "I've been given custody of him. He's signed to Usher, and I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours he's with me, and we're gonna go full crazy." This connection between Usher, Diddy, and Bieber has got people wondering whether Usher, having been mentored by Diddy, later plugged Bieber with a similar relationship with Diddy. Posts on social media platforms have suggested that Usher may have gifted Bieber to Diddy, but these claims are all speculation and don't have any real evidence. Adding another layer to the drama, Justin Bieber recently unfollowed Usher on Instagram in 2025, along with other figures like Scooter Braun. This has fueled speculation about beef related to their shared history with Diddy, though no concrete evidence links these actions to Diddy's case. The whole landscape of allegations and controversy surrounding Diddy has been further complicated by numerous conspiracy theories that have popped up since his arrest. Among these are claims about political distractions, blackmail schemes, secret tunnels connecting to the Playboy Mansion, and allegations of a Hollywood elite cover-up. While these theories have gained traction on social media platforms like X and TikTok, most don't have any receipts and rely on speculation or fake content. One particularly troubling claim came from Courtney Burgess, a former associate of Diddy's, who claimed that Kim Porter, Diddy's ex and mother of 4 of his children, gave him flash drives with incriminating videos videos of Diddy with celebrities, including minors. Diddy sued Burgess and his lawyer Ariel Mitchell, alleging they fabricated outrageous lies for clout and profit. Burgess claimed law enforcement seized the drives, but no public evidence confirms they exist or what's on them. Social media has played a major role in amplifying these controversies and allegations. X posts, such as those claiming that Diddy's trial could expose a Hollywood pedophile network, show how speculation spreads without evidence, framing the trial as a cultural expose rather than a legal proceeding. TikTok's role in circulating AI-generated content and unverified claims, including a fake Justin Bieber track titled "Lost Myself at a Diddy Party," highlights how hard it is to fight misinformation, especially among the younger crowd. Was Usher a victim of grooming or exploitation? Did he witness behavior that he only later realized was inappropriate or harmful? And why has he stayed mostly quiet on these issues since Diddy got locked up? As the streets keep talking and more evidence comes to light, the truth about what really went down between these two might finally break through all the noise. Why has Usher remained silent? Despite the dark cloud that now hangs over his early relationship with Diddy, Usher has built a legendary career that spans decades. From his breakout album My Way in '97 to his Super Bowl halftime show in 2024, Usher has cemented himself as an R&B icon with mad cultural influence. The question remains, how has the shadow of his early experiences with Diddy shaped his trajectory, both in the game and in his personal life? One of the most interesting aspects of this legacy is how Usher's experience with Diddy seems to have influenced his own approach to mentorship, especially in his relationship with a young Justin Bieber. Usher signed Bieber to RBMG Records in 2008 when Bieber was just 14, taking on a mentor role that in some ways mirrored Diddy's relationship with him. However, the differences in how he moved are notable. Usher has stated that his time with Diddy taught him the importance of mentorship, which he applied to his guidance of Bieber. Yet, there's no indication that Bieber crashed at Usher's crib during his come-up, or that Usher exposed him to the kind of grown folks business that he himself described experiencing in Diddy's spot. This suggests that Usher may have deliberately chosen a different path as a mentor, perhaps based on his own experiences as a young artist under Diddy's wing. In February 2024, shortly before Diddy got locked up, Usher told People magazine that his time living with Diddy helped him understand how to mentor Bieber. Living with Puff and being around him, I got a chance to really understand what was happening as a 13 or 14-year-old being mentored by someone who had a vision to do something different, Usher said. For Justin, I could be a mentor because I was mentored. These comments, made before the full scope of allegations against Diddy blew up, hit different in light of recent developments. They suggest that Usher saw value in the concept of mentorship, even as his hell no response to Howard Stern indicates. He recognized aspects of his experience with Diddy that he wouldn't want to pass on to his own kids or mentees. The power dynamics at play in these mentorship relationships can't be slept on. Usher was a 13-year-old kid placed under the legal guardianship of a 25-year-old man in an environment that, by his own admission, included adult activities and explicit content. Years later, Usher, as an established star, took on the mentorship of a teenage Bieber, creating a cycle of influence that spans generations of pop music. This pattern raises important questions about the music industry's treatment of young artists, particularly minors. The practice of sending teenagers to live with older mentors, as in Usher's case, has been called out as potentially exploitative, raising questions about oversight and accountability. Reddit users have compared Diddy's mentorship to similar allegations against other figures like Chris Stokes, highlighting a pattern of concern about young male singers in the industry. The resurfacing of Usher's interviews has prompted reflection on how society interprets the experiences of child stars. Some fans argue that Usher's vague language and emotional cues in interviews suggest underlying trauma, though others say we shouldn't read too much into these moments without more concrete evidence. One of the most puzzling aspects of this whole situation is Usher's relative silence since Diddy's arrest. Despite the flood of allegations against his former mentor and the renewed scrutiny of their relationship, Usher hasn't publicly commented on the charges or allegations beyond addressing the X account hack. This silence could be taken in multiple ways. It might reflect a desire to avoid legal drama, protect his rep, or process his own experiences privately. Alternatively, it could indicate that Usher doesn't believe he has anything incriminating to share. The claim in Dawn Richards' lawsuit that Usher witnessed Diddy's mistreatment of Cassie suggests he may have relevant information, but his lack of response could also be due to the absence of direct involvement or evidence. Social media reactions to Usher's silence have been all over the place. Some users have expressed sympathy for him, viewing him as a potential victim of grooming or exploitation due to his young age during his time with Diddy. Others have speculated about his complicity or knowledge of Diddy's alleged misconduct, though these claims are unsubstantiated. Reddit discussions on RSat R&B have debated whether Usher was a witness or victim, with users urging caution against making definitive claims without more evidence. The impact on Usher's legacy remains to be seen. He continues to be a celebrated artist with a successful 2024 Super Bowl halftime performance and a thriving career. However, his association with Diddy has cast a shadow, with some fans fans questioning his silence or speculating about his role. The controversy hasn't significantly damaged his career, but has prompted ongoing debate about his past and what it may reveal about the darker side of the music industry. Without further testimony from Usher or corroboration of third-party claims, the full nature of their relationship remains unclear. What is clear, however, is that the story has forced a reevaluation of practices that were once normalized in the music industry, particularly regarding the treatment of young artists. The Diddy-Usher controversy has sparked broader discussions about the music industry's treatment of women and minors, with parallels to R. Kelly's conviction highlighting systemic issues. Diddy's white parties, once symbols of elite status, are now scrutinized as sites of alleged abuse, reflecting a shift in public perception. In recent months, as Diddy's legal troubles have mounted, there have been reports of increasing distance between Bieber and Usher. Bieber reportedly felt disturbed by Diddy's 2024 legal troubles and regretted their 2023 collab on the track Moments. The unfollow on Instagram suggests a potential rift in their relationship, though the exact reasons remain unclear. The cyclical nature of mentorship in the music industry is striking. Diddy himself was mentored by Andre Harrell at Uptown Records before branching out to form Bad Boy Records and taking Usher under his wing. Usher then mentored Bieber, who has gone on to influence younger artists in his own right. This chain of influence raises questions about how patterns of behavior might be perpetuated through generations of artists and whether the industry has evolved to better protect young talents. It's worth noting that Usher isn't the only artist who had a close mentorship relationship with Diddy during the early stages of their career. Several artists have had relationships with Diddy similar to Usher's, characterized by mentorship, close professional collaboration, and in some cases, living arrangements during their early careers. These relationships often involve Diddy's role as a producer, label exec, or guardian figure at Bad Boy Records or earlier at Uptown Records, shaping the artists' careers while occasionally raising questions about the nature of their experiences. Besides Justin Bieber, other notable artists with connections to Diddy include Biggie Smalls, Mary J. Blige, Mace, Faith Evans, and Dawn Richard. Each of these relationships had its own dynamics, but they share the common thread of Diddy's powerful influence over young talents at pivotal moments in their careers. Biggie Smalls' relationship with Diddy was more collaborative than guardianship-based, unlike Usher's, but both involved intense mentorship during formative career stages. Diddy discovered Biggie through the Source magazine's Unsigned Hype column in the early 1990s and signed him to Bad Boy Records. While Usher lived with Diddy as a minor, Biggie worked closely with him as an adult, but both relationships placed Diddy in a powerful guiding role. Mary J. Blige's connection to Diddy was also significant. Diddy was instrumental in launching Blige's career at Uptown Records, where he worked as a talent director in the early 1990s. He produced her debut album, What's the 411, which blended R&B with hip-hop, earning her the title Queen of Hip Hop Soul. Unlike Usher or Bieber, Blige hasn't reported exposure to inappropriate environments under Diddy's mentorship, though her association with him has been scrutinized due to her presence at his events. As Diddy's trial continues and more information potentially comes to light, the full story of his relationship with Usher and other young artists may become clearer. The music industry has long operated with its own set of rules, often placing young talent in situations where the line between mentorship and exploitation can become blurred. For now, Usher's legacy stands on its own merits, built on decades of musical innovation and cultural impact. Yet the questions surrounding his early experiences with Diddy remain. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.
27 years after his killing, Dwayne Davis, a man long known to investigators, in court charged with murder.
For a long time, Tupac's death might have been the coldest case in hip-hop crime history. However, new evidence is now pointing to one man's involvement. However, this man is pointing his fingers at another man as the mastermind. If Dwayne's confessions hold any water, then Diddy might have a case to answer. So, I will show you how P. Diddy killed Tupac on camera. Tupac's death. Tupac Shakur's life took a dramatic turn on November 30th, 1994, when he found himself at the center of a shocking incident at Quad Studios in Times Square. It was during this fateful robbery that Tupac was shot 5 times, an event that would have far-reaching consequences and set the stage for the tragic events that would follow. At the time, Tupac was a rising star in the music industry, known for his raw talent and unapologetic lyrics. He had already released several successful albums and was gaining a reputation as a force to be reckoned with. But on that fateful night, his world would be turned upside down. The robbery took place in the early hours of the morning as Tupac and his entourage arrived at Quad Studios for a recording session. Little did they know that danger lurked within the walls of the studio. As they entered the building, they were confronted by armed assailants who demanded their valuables. In the chaos that ensued, shots rang out, and Tupac found himself caught in the crossfire. He was struck 5 times, sustaining serious injuries that would have a lasting impact on his life. The assailants quickly fled the scene. The aftermath of the shooting was chaotic, with Tupac being rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, but immediately recuperated from that attack. In April 1995, Tupac granted an interview to Vibe magazine, where he made shocking allegations about the robbery at Quad Studios. He intimated that producer Sean Combs, also known as Puff Daddy, and rapper Christopher Wallace, known as the Notorious Big, were aware of the setup. According to Tupac, he believed that the robbery was orchestrated as an act of revenge, fueled by the ongoing East Coast-West Coast rap feud. These allegations only added fuel to the fire, intensifying the already tense rivalry between the East Coast and West Coast rap scenes. The shooting at Quad Studios became a symbol of the escalating tensions and violence that plagued the industry at the time. That will not be the last time that Tupac will be shot at. However, this time he would not survive. On the evening of September 7th, 1996, Tupac Shakur was in town to attend the highly anticipated boxing match between Bruce Seldon and Mike Tyson at the MGM Grand. Accompanying him was Marion Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records. Little did they know that this night would forever change the course of history. As Tupac and Suge made their way through the crowded lobby of the MGM Grand, they encountered a member of the mob Pirates gang named Trevon Trey Lane. Lane, a Compton native, spotted Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, a member of the rival Southside Compton Crips gang, in the lobby. Tensions between the two gangs had been simmering for some time, and this chance encounter would ignite a chain of events that would ultimately lead to Tupac's untimely demise. Earlier that year, in July 1996, Anderson and a group of Southside Crips had attempted to rob Lane in a Foot Locker store at the Lakewood Center Mall in Lakewood, California. Lane, determined to seek revenge, wasted no time in informing Tupac about the presence of Anderson in the lobby. In a fit of rage, Tupac approached Anderson and asked him if he was from the South, referring to the Southside Crips. Without hesitation, Tupac delivered a powerful blow to Anderson's face, knocking him to the ground. The commotion caught the attention of onlookers and hotel security, who quickly intervened to break up the fight. Little did they know that this altercation would set in motion a series of events that would ultimately lead to tragedy. After the brawl, Tupac returned to his hotel, the Luxor Las Vegas, where he disclosed the details of the fight to his girlfriend, Kidada Jones. He had promised to return to her after entering the MGM Grand, but the events of the evening had taken an unexpected turn. Tupac, still fueled by adrenaline and a sense of righteousness, made the decision to leave with Suge Knight in a BMW sedan. As they left Luxor Las Vegas, Tupac and Suge changed their clothes and headed to Club 662, a nightclub owned by Knight. The night was far from over, as Tupac was scheduled to perform at a charity concert. At around 11 o'clock to 11:05 p.m., as Tupac and Suge were driving on Las Vegas Boulevard, they were stopped by officers from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Bike Patrol. The reason for the stop? Playing the car stereo too loudly and not having license plates. The officers discovered the plates in the trunk of Knight's car and released them without issuing a citation. It was a seemingly minor encounter, but it would have significant implications later that night. At approximately 11:10 p.m., as Tupac and Suge were stopped at a red light at the intersection of East Flamingo Road and Koval Lane, a white four-door Cadillac pulled up to the right side of Knight's vehicle. Inside the Cadillac were two women, who engaged in a brief exchange of words with Tupac through the window. In a surprising turn of events, Tupac invited the women to join them at Club 662, unaware of the danger that awaited them. Just 5 minutes later, at 11:15 p.m., another vehicle pulled up to the right side of Knight's car. This vehicle, a white Cadillac, would become the instrument of Tupac's demise. The shooter, seated in the back seat of the Cadillac, rolled down the window and unleashed a hail of bullets from a .40 S&W Glock 22. The shots rang out, striking Tupac 4 times, twice in the chest, once in the arm, and once in the thigh. The bullets found their mark, causing grave injuries that would ultimately claim Tupac's life. Despite being injured himself, Suge Knight managed to drive Tupac and himself away from the scene of the shooting. With a flat tire, they made their way to Las Vegas Boulevard and Harmon Avenue. It was there that they were once again pulled over by the bike patrol, who quickly realized the severity of the situation and called for paramedics. Tupac and Suge were rushed to the University Medical Center of Southern Nevada, just a short distance from the MGM Grand where their evening had begun. The medical staff worked tirelessly to save Tupac's life, but his injuries were too severe. He was heavily sedated, placed on life support machines, and ultimately put into a medically induced coma. Despite their best efforts, Tupac's condition continued to deteriorate. In the critical care unit on the afternoon of Friday, September 13th, 1996, Tupac Shakur succumbed to respiratory failure that led to cardiac arrest. His right lung had been removed in an attempt to stop the hemorrhaging, but it was too late. The news of his passing sent shockwaves through the music industry and left millions of fans around the world in mourning. In the aftermath of Tupac's death, numerous theories and speculations emerged, pointing fingers at various individuals within the music industry. One name that repeatedly surfaced was Sean Combs, better known as Diddy, the influential music mogul and founder of Bad Boy Records. Diddy had a complex history with Tupac, Tupac. While they had collaborated on music together, their relationship was marred by conflicts and controversies. The rumors surrounding Diddy's involvement in Tupac's death only added fuel to the fire. Just months before the shooting that led to his death, Tupac had accused Diddy of knowing about the Quad Studio robbery before it happened. However, Diddy tried to control the narrative. Diddy called Mopreme Shakur, Tupac's brother, to deny any involvement in the crime. During an interview with The Art of Dialogue, Mopreme shared his recollection of the conversation, shedding light on the emotions and thoughts that swirled within him.
Back in the day, he called me, he was like, I just want you to know I ain't have nothing to do with your brothers.
According to Mopreme, everything was just for show, as it was a bid to clear his name. The Los Angeles Times had published an article implicating Diddy in Tupac's murder, and Diddy did what Diddy does best. He played in the gallery.
The LA Times had just dropped an article in the newspaper implicating him as well.
Mopreme knew better, so all he told him was that the truth would come out. According to him, even though Diddy might have looked sincere, all he wanted was information.
Back then, I wanted all the information I could get. I heard what he said, but this shit been so chaotic, I ain't know which way to go until you find out more information.
Now, we know that Diddy calling Mopreme might have been Diddy's sly attempt to plead his innocence and divert the attention of detectives and the internet's wrath away from himself. However, Mopreme would not let Diddy's call sway him. He went on to say,
he could have been trying to cover his or he could have been sincere. We gonna see.
Mopreme's words echoed the uncertainty and confusion that surrounded the case. Now, that article by the LA Times we earlier referenced that might have pushed Diddy into calling Mopreme was later retracted in 2008. The Times explained that the story relied on information that was no longer deemed credible. With the amount of money and political connections Diddy has, people are suspecting that someone probably has been threatened to revoke their statement. It would not be unfounded to think that someone has been threatened, as all but one witness to the murder are deceased. However, Diddy's involvement in this case is palpable. At this point, every shooting, every crime, every random rat dragging a pizza in Hollywood somehow links to Diddy, and it's beginning to feel like, when are we going to start talking about the veracity of these claims?
It's just too many attachments to Diddy, man. At some point, you got to start looking like, yo, what's going on?
In the meantime, the police have their sights set somewhere else.
My name's Jason Johansson, and I'm the homicide lieutenant with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And my goal here today is to walk you through our investigation and what led us to the indictment of Dwayne Davis, also known as Keefe D, for the murder of Tupac Shakur.
In September, Las Vegas law enforcement made a significant breakthrough in the case when they arrested Davis. A Nevada grand jury indicted him on one count of murder with a deadly weapon. Clark County Chief Deputy District Attorney Mark DiGiacomo alleged that Davis was the on-ground, on-site commander who ordered the death of Tupac Shakur. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community, as many had long speculated about the involvement of individuals within the music industry. Diddy's involvement.
And that Death Row Records and its CEO, Marion Suge Knight, were closely affiliated with the Mob Piru criminal street gangs, and that they had an ongoing feud with the Southside Compton Crips. Dwayne Davis was the leader and shot caller of the Southside Compton Crips.
Keefe D, whose real name is Dwayne Keith Davis, hails from the tough streets of Compton, California. Growing up in a neighborhood plagued by violence and crime, Keefe D found solace and a sense of belonging in the notorious Southside Compton Crips gang. The Southside Compton Crips, known for their ruthless reputation, dominated the streets of Compton during the 1990s. Keefe D was a prominent member of this gang, involved in various criminal activities that ranged from drug trafficking to armed robberies. The gang's influence extended far beyond the boundaries of Compton, reaching into the heart of the hip-hop industry. It was within this dangerous world that Keefe D crossed paths with the legendary rapper Tupac Shakur. Tupac, a rising star in the music industry, was known for his provocative lyrics and outspoken nature. He had become a symbol of resistance and empowerment for many in the African-American community. However, his association with the Mob Piru criminal street gang would prove to be a fatal mistake. The rivalry between Tupac and another prominent rapper, Christopher Wallace, also known as the Notorious Big, had escalated to dangerous levels. According to Keefe D, the motive behind Diddy's alleged involvement stemmed from the escalating East Coast-West Coast hip-hop rivalry. Tupac's affiliation with the West Coast and his ongoing feud with the Notorious Big, who was associated with the East Coast, had created a toxic atmosphere within the industry. Diddy, who was closely aligned with the Notorious Big, saw an opportunity to eliminate his rival and solidify his own position of power. Keefe D's confession paints a chilling picture of the events leading up up to Tupac's murder. He claims that Diddy approached him with a sinister proposition, offering a substantial sum of $1 million to carry out the assassination of Tupac and Suge Knight, the CEO of Death Row Records. The allure of such a significant amount of money proved too tempting for Keith D to resist, and he agreed to carry out the act. However, he did not actually get the money. Puff was wise, though, as he always somehow found a way to distance himself from any incriminating evidence. The plan was set in motion, and on that fateful night in September 1996, Tupac was gunned down in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. The music world was left in shock, mourning the loss of one of its brightest stars, but behind the scenes, a web of deceit and betrayal was slowly unraveling. Diddy's representatives have refrained from commenting on these explosive allegations, leaving the public to speculate on the truth behind Keith D's confessions. However, it is important to note that Diddy himself has vehemently denied any involvement in Tupac's death, dismissing such claims as nonsense. Following his courtroom confession, Keith D's statements have been met with a mix of skepticism and intrigue. Many have questioned the credibility of his account, considering his affiliation with the Southside Compton Crips and his own criminal background. However, investigators have been compelled to re-examine the evidence and explore any potential links to Diddy and the alleged orchestration of Tupac's assassination. Law enforcement agencies have reopened the case, determined to uncover the truth behind Tupac's murder. Detectives are combing through old leads, re-interviewing witnesses, and analyzing forensic evidence in the hopes of finally bringing justice to the slain rapper. The revelations from Keith D have provided a new avenue of investigation, shedding light on a possible motive and the involvement of a prominent figure in the music industry. However, according to the preliminary investigation of the crimes, Keith D had a motive. Orlando Anderson, whom Tupac and his gang had jumped at a hotel lobby, was his nephew, and everyone knows that in the underworld, that is enough to end someone's life. On September 29th, the arrest of Keith D sent shockwaves through the music industry and the public alike. Keith D, whose real name is Dwayne Keith Davis, was apprehended 27 years after the tragic murder of the influential rapper Tupac Shakur. As a high-ranking member of the notorious Southside Compton Crips, Keith D had long been suspected of involvement in Tupac's killing, but it was only in recent years that he publicly spoke about his connection to the crime. The arrest came as a result of Keith D's own public statements, which caught the attention of law enforcement. In these statements, he described himself as the only surviving witness to Tupac's murder, although he did not claim to have pulled the trigger. Following his arrest, Keith D was arraigned in Clark County District Court in Nevada on November 2nd. The Associated Press reported that at the hearing, a judge appointed two special public defenders, Robert Arroyo and Charles Cano, to represent Keith D. However, the defense attorneys declined to comment to the media, leaving the public hungry for more information. Meanwhile, Keith D has been attempting to secure the services of high-profile defense attorney Ross Goodman. This move has caused delays in the case, as Keith D seeks legal representation that he believes will best serve his interests. Goodman, known for his expertise in high-profile cases, has been critical of the prosecutor's lack of evidence. In a previous hearing, he boldly stated, "There's no gun, there's no car, and there's no witnesses from 27 years ago." These remarks have raised questions about the strength of the case against Keith D. Despite the gravity of the charges, prosecutors have announced that they will not be seeking the death penalty for Keith D. District Attorney Steve Wolfson, speaking to the media after the hearing, stated that this case does not meet the criteria for capital punishment, although he did not provide further details. This decision has sparked debate and speculation among legal experts and the public, who are eager to understand the reasoning behind it. Currently, Keith D is being held without bail, as the court considers him a flight risk and a potential danger to the community. The next hearing, scheduled for November 7th, will determine the trial date and set the stage for the legal proceedings that will finally bring the truth to light. The arrest of Keith D has been a pivotal moment in the long-standing investigation into Tupac's murder. For years, the case remained unsolved, leaving Tupac's family, friends, and fans desperate for answers. Sekiwaset Shakur, Tupac's sister and president of the Tupac Amaru Shakur Foundation, expressed her relief at the arrest, calling it a victory. She emphasized the importance of acknowledging the gravity of her brother's passing and ensuring that justice is served. It is believed that Keith D played a significant role in the events leading up to Tupac's murder. Prosecutors have alleged that he ordered the death of the influential rapper, positioning him as a key player in the tragic drive-by shooting that took place on September 7, 1996. While Keith D has not claimed to have pulled the trigger himself, his involvement in the planning and execution of the crime has been a subject of intense speculation. For years, Keith D remained silent about his connection to Tupac's murder. However, in recent years, he has broken his silence, publicly discussing his involvement and positioning himself as the only surviving witness to the crime. These revelations have sent shockwaves through the music industry and reignited public interest in the case. The arrest of Keith D has raised questions about his motives and the circumstances that led to Tupac's tragic demise. Was it a result of a personal vendetta, or was it a calculated move to eliminate eliminate a rising star who posed a threat to the status quo? These questions continue to haunt the investigation and fuel the public's desire for answers. While Keefe D's arrest has shed light on his alleged involvement in Tupac's murder, the case against him is not without its challenges. As defense attorney Ross Goodman pointed out, there is a lack of concrete evidence linking Keefe D to the crime. The absence of a murder weapon, a getaway car, and witnesses from 27 years ago has raised doubts about the strength of the prosecution's case. 50 Cent, the renowned rapper and member of G Unit, took to Instagram to publicly mock his rival, accusing him of putting a hit on the legendary rapper Tupac Shakur. In a caption accompanying a screenshot of a New York Daily News story, 50 Cent wrote, "El Mal so puffy with the shit, hun. See, you gotta watch these punks. Scary as a try you, hash no puffy juice, he killed your favorite rapper." These words sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community, as 50 Cent directly implicated P. Diddy in the murder of one of the most influential figures in the history of rap music. A groundbreaking documentary, directed by Michael Dorsey, has gained significant attention for its shocking revelations and evidence-based investigation into the deaths of Tupac Shakur and the Notorious Big. According to the documentary, P. Diddy, also known as Sean Combs, allegedly paid a Crips gang member named Dwayne Keith Keffy D. Davis a staggering sum of $1 million to carry out the hit on Tupac and Suge Knight. The film follows the investigations of LAPD detective Greg Kading, who presents a compelling case based on empirical evidence. Kading's investigations claim that Suge Knight, the co-founder of Death Row Records, then hired a Bloods gang member named Wardell Poochie Faust to seek revenge for Tupac's death by killing the notorious B.I.G. These shocking allegations shed new light on the bitter rivalry between Death Row Records and P. Diddy's Bad Boy Records, adding another layer of complexity to the tragic events surrounding these iconic rappers. Murder Rap has been praised for its well-produced and thought-provoking narrative, making a disturbing case that both Tupac Shakur and the Notorious Big were killed as a result of the intense rivalry between these two record labels. The documentary presents a fact-based investigation backed by evidence, challenging the commonly held theories surrounding these murders. In the early stages of the investigation into the murder of rapper Tupac Shakur, law enforcement faced numerous challenges that hindered their progress. The crime, which occurred in 1996, left investigators struggling to gather the necessary information to make any headway in the case. The lack of cooperation from witnesses and individuals with knowledge of the events surrounding the murder proved to be a major obstacle. At the time of the crime, nobody was willing to come forward and provide law enforcement with the crucial details they needed. This lack of cooperation left investigators frustrated and struggling to piece together the puzzle of Tupac's murder. Without the necessary information, the case remained stagnant for years, leaving Tupac's family, friends, and fans desperate for answers. It wasn't until 2009 that a breakthrough occurred in the case. Greg Kading, a former LAPD detective, and his team had the opportunity to interview Keffy D. During this interview, Keffy D made a shocking confession, revealing his role in Tupac's murder. This confession, however, came with a catch. It was made under what is known as a proffer agreement, which meant that Keffy D's self-incriminating information could not be used against him.
Ultimately, in 2009, when we interviewed Keffy D, he confessed to his role in the murder. That confession was done under what's known as a proffer agreement, which doesn't allow us to use his own self-incriminating information against himself.
But Keffy D's confession did not end with the interview. Over the years, he began to publicly boast about his role in Tupac's murder, disregarding the protection provided by the proffer agreement. This public revelation of his involvement in the crime caught the attention of law enforcement in Las Vegas, where the murder took place. It was this boastful behavior that ultimately led to Keffy D's arrest and subsequent indictment. The arrest of Keffy D was not only a result of his own actions, but also a consequence of the legal implications surrounding the proffer agreement. While the agreement protected him from immediate prosecution based on his own words, it did not shield him from the consequences of publicly admitting his involvement in the murder. This breach of the agreement allowed law enforcement to take action and hold Keffy D accountable for his role in the crime. The significance of Keffy D's confession and subsequent arrest cannot be understated. It brought a sense of closure to the investigation into Tupac's murder, officially solving a case that had remained unsolved for almost 3 decades. The confession provided the missing piece of the puzzle, confirming what many had suspected for years, that Keffy D was directly involved in the murder of the iconic rapper. The confession also had broader implications for the historical record. With Keffy D's admission of guilt, the mystery surrounding Tupac's murder was no longer shrouded in uncertainty. The truth had been revealed, and someone was being held accountable for the crime. This development brought a sense of justice not only to Tupac's family and friends, but also to his countless fans who had long sought answers. That brings us to the end of this video. For more videos like this, click on the cards on your screen.